The iPhone 16 and 16 Pro are here. On this episode of the Macworld Podcast, we talk about the new phones and what it's like to use them. Get all the details coming up on the show. Stick around. Welcome to the Macworld Podcast. I'm Roman Loyola here with Jason Cross.
Good morning.
And Michael Simon.
Hello, sir.
Before we jump into it, I do have one thing to say. The Macworld Podcast channel is live on YouTube. If you actually want to see us do the show and talk about our dogs, go to youtube.com/@MacworldPodcast and like and subscribe to the channel. Check us out.
He says live, meaning it's like available.
It's available.
True.
It's not live.
We do not live stream this podcast.
Yes. Lowercase L in live.
Yeah.
Maybe I think you need to think of it.
We'll just correct you every week, Roman. It's all right.
That's part of the shtick now, right? It's part of the shtick. So the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro, it started shipping last Friday. And we here at Macworld got the new phones. So we're going to talk about our early impressions of the new phones. Jason, you got the 16 Pro and Pro Max.
Yep.
Mike,
They're not different this year other than the size. There's no the Pro Max has the telephoto. So
can you
it's
tell
the
the
same
difference in the screen? Because you had the Pro Max, you had the 15 Pro Max.
I can. I'll say we'll dive into all the specifics.
I won't spoil it for our.
I mean, you brought it since you brought it up. It's 0.2 inches more is not a lot, and the phones are actually just a tiny bit bigger, and then also the bezels are smaller. I have not had the problem some people say they've had with touches around the edges, but maybe that's how I hold the phone.
I actually experienced that on the Plus. And it kind of comes and goes, but is definite some dead spots.
I think people who don't use a case, it might be more, I don't. But anyway, I think if you're one of those people like me who used to gravitate to the Pro Max because you really like or need that larger screen size, but you hate how big it is, it's uncomfortably large to you, but you're like, but I need the screen size. Take a look at the regular Pro this time, being just a little bit larger. I mean, 6.3 isn't that much down from 6.7 now. But the phone's a lot smaller. So I think I'm probably going to as a daily driver, use the regular Pro this time, not the Pro Max, because they made it just a little bit bigger. I think I just like the smaller phone. So I feel like it better satisfies my whole I need a big screen because my eyes stink. but I don't like a huge phone. So take a look at it. It's not a huge difference though. 0.2 inches diagonally is just a little.
You get a half a line of text in some feeds or something.
The bezels are noticeably smaller. If you hold next to the other phone, you're like, wow, there wasn't much before, but now there's even less, just ring around the phone.
Yeah, the bezels are a funny thing. People make a big deal about them on social media and such.
Yeah, I can't.
But once you start using it, you don't even notice.
Yeah, I don't really
how thick they are or how thin they are. You focus on the screen. So it's really just a cosmetic thing for...
if you're a person who uses a case, it's not going to matter anyways, because the case kind of makes
it
makes a little ridge.
Bit. Yeah.
And your screen goes almost all the way to that edge anyway, so it's who cares?
I mean, we used phones with 2-inch bezels for
all the time.
Years.
Go back and look at it. And a big forehead bar.
Right.
Yeah. Mike, you have a 16 Plus, correct?
I do, and I got to tell you, it's only been 3 days. So I've had the Pro Max since the iPhone 13. No, 14. 14 Pro Max. So that's 2 years, and I don't miss it at all. It's a very surprising thing how much Pro stuff is in the non-Pro phones this year. So. The big thing you're missing is the telephoto lens. But with the 48 megapixel camera and the way they kind of work with zoom, you're still getting a little bit of zoom with a not telephoto lens. So it's about as good as the 15 Pro was last year, maybe slightly less, but it's good. It's there.
Yeah, 2x instead of 3x, but it's kind of the same
but
thing.
It's kind of the same. It's remarkably lighter than the Pro Max. Like it almost feels. I gave it to my wife, and she said, "Wow, it feels like it's almost hollow. It's so light." The Plus phone versus the Pro Max with that extra camera.
The extra camera and just the titanium and all that stuff.
And
it's just barely over. It's just the 16 Plus, is just barely, it's 7 ounces and the Pro Max is 8. But it's also, there's just
that extra ounce is all in the top left. So it feels
that's true.
heavier because it's top heavy. So this one feels extraordinarily light. And I thought I would really miss ProMotion and the always on display, but like I'm already kind of used to it. So I wrote an article last week. I turned off, or I actually rather turned on in the accessibility settings. You can turn on limit what is it? Limit
frame rate.
Refresh. Limit frame rate.
Yeah, refresh.
So you can lock the Pro Max phones to 60, which I did for about a week before I got the Plus. So I kind of trained my eyes or my fingers to not notice the 120 hertz.
Yeah.
It's even better on the Plus. Sorry, Jason. Like it feels faster than it did with the limiting of the 15 Pro Max.
I think a lot of people don't really like, as long as you have good responsive touch and a good steady solid 60 where you're not dropping frames and stuff like that as you're going. I think for a lot of people they don't care that won't notice 90 or 120 hertz. The always on display that's ridiculous. It's an $800 phone. Apple is like way it should exist. And it has OLED. Like there's no reason for it not to. Yeah, no, it's so ridiculous. I can't.
Yeah, but I don't really use that as much as I thought I would. I just tap the screen once to see the time if I need to, or a notification or whatever it is. The the live activities are there. Like it's all there. It's just not present. So I just got to reach over and just tap it.
Have you noticed? And this is on the regulars and the pros, but have you noticed and come to appreciate the new super low minimum brightness?
Yes,
the 1 nit minimum.
I love it. So here.
That has made a huge difference. I love that.
Yeah, I use my phone in bed a lot, particularly like I have very weird sleep pattern, so I'll wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and I can't sleep, so I'll put on my phone. And my wife's next to me in bed, and I always bring the brightness down as low as I possibly can. Now it really feels like there's no. On the older phones it was still pretty bright.
Yeah.
Like this one, when you bring it down, it really feels like you're looking at almost like an e-reader, like it's really dim.
Yeah. And it's great. It doesn't light up the whole room. It doesn't disturb the other people next to you. I'm an extremely light sleeper, and my wife always likes to have 30 minutes to mess on her phone at night and stuff. And I'm like, all right, turn off the light. It's time to go to bed. She's like, oh, you can turn off the light. You can go to bed. I'm like, no, but it's like having a flashlight on in the room.
Right.
But like the new super low dim, it's going to be much better for that kind of thing. I think that's one of those little features that I think a lot of people are going to appreciate.
I thought that was a pro feature until I got the phone, because
it's on all of them.
I thought it was tied into the ProMotion and the always on stuff, because they do the refresh goes down to 1.
The brightnesses are all the same and stuff too. It really makes me, all the specs are the same. It makes me feel like ProMotion and always on is software locked this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I feel like that's got to be the thing, because everything else about them.
iOS 19, but I doubt they'll ever do.
No, gosh, no. So you don't have to buy a phone? Come on. But yeah, the non-pros got the biggest upgrade this year, because they also, the camera control they did not make exclusive. They added the action button.
Also shocking.
Yeah, that's shocking. I thought they would get the action button and then next year they would get the camera control, but no, they got them both.
Yeah.
They're getting the Apple Intelligence stuff when that happens.
Yeah.
The the processor's not quite as fast. Like there's one less GPU core, and the CPU cores are a little slower. But like you'll never notice. They all have 8 gigs of RAM. They all have the faster wireless charging. If you get the new MagSafe thing, like you really are paying. Oh, and you get the other thing that my wife always needed the Pro for is she does a lot of macro photography. Now the non-Pro does macro on the
which
ultrawide.
Is huge. So, that was such an underappreciated feature of the Pro models. That macro. It's been a couple years, and I swear I use that more than I use the zoom.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of people do. That they take up close of stuff. So what you're really paying for is with the Pro is that telephoto lens that gets you 5x instead of 2x. So it's kind of like better telephoto, not just telephoto.
Right.
And the ultra wide is 48 megapixels instead of 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like the really high end sort of video features like 4K at 120 and recording in Pro RAW and stuff like stuff that you've got to really be into shooting video with your phone to care. Shooting log,
I don't even know. I had those on the 15 Pro Max, and I don't even know what or how I would enable them.
People don't use
it's not
that
something
stuff.
that I look for.
Yeah. Even my favorite sort of video feature is that you can, if you record in spatial audio, which you can turn on and thing, then when you're editing a video, you can choose an audio mode. You can choose regular in-frame, studio, or what's the other one? Surround, like spatial audio. And that's a great feature, and that's on the non-pros as well.
Yeah. So and also all those new photographic styles where you can swipe through. There's like a bunch of new ones. It's again, it's shocking how like how much parity they created with these phones.
Yeah, they really
after like distancing them for years now.
Yeah,
they just brought them all together. It's just it's great for buyers because you can save basically $300-400 and get a phone that does not feel any less than a Pro phone.
Yeah, just very little things. Just like I think battery life is going to be slightly different, but it's already so much better.
It's different, but it's better on the non-Pro phones. Like you're going to get slightly better, I think.
Yeah, more than slightly.
Mine feels that way anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. The battery life has been a massive improvement. Roman, I don't know if you've been running yours enough days to know yet. But they talked about how battery life is better because the batteries are a little bit bigger, but also they did more thermal management and the chips are more efficient and all this other stuff. So I expected a modest improvement in battery life. And Apple's battery life testing for their specs is always like video playback and at a brightness of like the slider's halfway. It's not like some exact. So we do something a little more I don't want to say rigorous, but
intense.
Like easier to know exactly what we're doing, which is we set the brightness to 200 nits, which is kind of bright office indoors setting of brightness. It's usually somewhere about halfway up brightness, gets you 200 nits. Turn off all the adaptive brightness stuff. And we run the old Geekbench 4 battery benchmark, which is basically loops through running the Geekbench CPU and GPU benchmarks, the old Geekbench 4 one with a little break in between. So it's like stressing the processor, but it's not doing anything wild with like 5G radios or any of that. I got massive improvements in battery life, just absolutely huge.
Versus the 15 Pro.
Versus the 15 Pro.
Yeah.
And that's, what was it? It was at least a couple hours more. It was over 1,000. It ended up being over 1,000 minutes for the Pro Max. It was a 50% improvement on the Pro, and like a 40, and something like a 43%. It was 54% longer with the Pro and 43% with the Pro Max. It's 19 hours on the Pro Max. It's just crazy. I think
that's a little higher than Apple says. I think, right?
It's a different test, so you can't compare. They say 22 hours of video playback or whatever, but that's the processor doesn't do anything. There's a media decode engine that's like super efficient. That's all it does. That's like a display test. It doesn't really. And they have different brightness. Brightness matters, so whatever. Mm-hmm. But that is it's a massive, like 50% longer than last year's, which was the best battery life of any iPhone. Like it's not. It's crazy better. So I think even if you were upgrading from last year's iPhone, you'd be like, well, I definitely get an hour or two longer battery life. And if you're coming from, most people don't upgrade from last year's iPhone. If you're coming from an iPhone 14 or 13, like a 13, if you're coming off a 3-year-old iPhone, this thing's going to honestly run twice as long. Like literally twice as long as your phone. You're going to go, oh my God, I used to have to plug in at the end of the day. Now I'm finishing the day with 40% battery life. Like it's crazy.
Just glancing at my battery stats and settings, my screen on time for the last 24 hours was 10 hours and 16 minutes, which I don't think I've ever come close to 10 hours before.
And did that run out the battery or did you?
It was pretty much run out by the end of the day. I was probably at like 8% or something.
All right.
But that's with streaming, that's with directions, that's what, like using things other than just looking at, the home screen. So the battery is fantastic.
Yeah, battery life is just killer. On all the models, all the iPhone 16s, the Pros are a little bit better, but yeah, it's a huge upgrade. And if you're coming off of an iPhone that's a couple of years old, it's going to be a huge improvement for you. And that's one of those things everybody likes. It doesn't matter how much of a power user or a casual, all I do is Instagram and email and text message. Everybody's like, I need more battery life.
Yeah, I've only had the phones for a day, so I haven't had a chance to run the battery test because you essentially need a day to run the battery test.
Yeah, it takes all day.
Yeah, so I haven't had a chance to do that
more than ever.
Yeah. I tried running it on the smaller iPhone 16 last night, and then I got it this morning, and it was still running, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to finish this test because I have to do other stuff.
It's good. It's nice to see that and go like, well, neat.
Right. Still going. I'm going to have to do it again, though. So, yeah.
You couldn't wait it out? Ugh.
No, I couldn't wait it out. So I wish I had started it earlier, but.
And it's a pain because, like we said, with the things we have to do, you have to go in accessibility settings and stuff to like turn off the auto brightness now and all that. Just all these things to keep it from trying to save battery by like dimming the screen and all this stuff. So then you have to use it and you're like, well, this is a pain in the butt to use this way. You have to go change all those things back and then change them all again.
Yeah.
Battery testing is the worst.
Yeah. Well, so what do you guys think of the camera control button? That's the thing I've played with the most, I think.
Me too, and I have thoughts, but I want to hear you guys first.
All right, 2 things. One, I love Apple's non-clicky buttons and how they feel like clicky buttons. Like it always amazes me.
It actually is a physical button.
But it doesn't.
This is not. It does. It just starts flush with the it starts flush with the thing, and it has like a membrane over it.
I didn't realize you were actually depressing it. I thought it was
actually is a button that clicks in, but it is, but it does have a surface over it that's pressure sensitive and touch sensitive. But it is not one of those solid state things. I know it's confusing because they do that.
It is. I honestly thought it was. But it feels, the positioning of it is great. The feel is great. It is remarkably unintuitive. I had a really hard time figuring out like what to do with it, how to do it, I took a bunch of photos that I didn't mean to take. It's like for an Apple product, it's shocking how difficult it is to figure out what to do when.
I fully agree on a lot of that. Roman, you've messed with the most, you said, out of everything.
Yeah, and the thing that I like it, but I do understand that there's going to be some learning to it. Like, I still haven't figured out, like the way I use it now is it's basically to adjust focus or not focus, zoom, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So I activate the camera and I just zoom, but you can have it come up with different settings you can adjust, right? And I haven't figured out how to trigger that.
Double tap.
I've done it by accident.
Yeah.
So I figured out, if you double tap it, then it comes up with the other settings.
But then if sometimes when you double tap, it takes a photo or it'll bring
if
up
you press too hard.
the video camera.
Yeah. So it's like, I think I'm going to like it, but I think the learning curve is steeper than what they're kind of promoting. And
yes,
if they're even promoting a learning curve, but
it will have one other function at some point. It's an Apple Intelligence feature where, like right now, if you just give it a full press, it launches the camera. There'll be a press and hold to launch what they call visual intelligence, which will be, give me an AI something about whatever I'm pointing the camera at. Tell me what this is. Tell me what the hours are, whatever. That's one of those coming in the future. We've never seen it. We haven't tested it. It's not in 18.1 that we can beta test. It's a promise. 2 tips for people about the camera control. All right. I feel like the full press the button to launch the camera app, I love. You can set it to a different app. You can set it easily. It's right there in settings. You can just pick, like if you pick Instagram, for example, it will launch right into the taking a picture from Instagram. Shortcuts right into that. It means you can take that camera button off your lock screen because you never need to press it. You can be in any app, just press that, hop right into the camera, press it to take a photo. I do that all the time. I love the press and hold to video because it stops taking the video when you let go. Which, if you need to take a video fast, opening your camera, switching to video, pressing the thing, and then taking your video and stop it. Like, sometimes that's too much. If something's happening right now and you're like, oh my God, I should get a shot of this. So it's faster. What messes me up, and I think it's messing you guys up and everybody else, is the tapping and swiping stuff is awful. It's too fiddly. It's too, how do I double tap? Yeah. How do I lightly press to bring up that control, but not take a picture, but not press too hard, right?
I do get, like, the swiping is all right. Once I'm in the zoom thing.
Yeah.
Or the focus thing or the exposure thing, like I'm okay with swiping. I just don't know how to get out of it most of the time.
I actually don't even like the swiping because I find it to be hard to be as exact as I need. Like I
agree.
Too far and then I got to back up a little and stuff. So the 2 tips I would offer people is, first of all, if you do the little light press and you bring up that control for your zoom or your focus or whatever you're doing, you can drag that on the screen with your finger. You don't have to use the button.
But then you got to take your hands away from the nice position that you're in.
I just mean it's like, it's more, it might be easier to be more exact that way. But the other is, if you go into settings and then accessibility, there's a new camera control section in accessibility, and it lets you turn off the light press. It lets you change the light press for a swipe. You can just do a whole swipe to bring up that control.
Why is that not? Why isn't that a feature that people can get to in the camera app?
I don't know why it's an Why is it an accessibility?
It should be its own setting. It shouldn't be an accessibility. It should be its own setting. I know this is a podcast
and all, but Jason, can you write this story like immediately?
Yes, I will.
What on earth? What I did not know that was there.
And it also lets you adjust the light press force. It has default lighter or firmer. And then it has the double light press speed, the double tap to bring up the controls. You can have default slow or slower.
That's much better.
So these things are in accessibility, but I think having those, messing with those things will be of benefit to almost everyone. And I'm probably just going to turn off the light press entirely because I'm fine just like dragging the controls with my thumb if I need to zoom. And that way I'm never going to mess up and accidentally like not take the photo or whatever. And then all I have is my shutter. It's like the launch and shutter. And I think that's, for me, the way I want it to work. But yeah, there's features for that. They're in accessibility, and they will help you.
I can't wait for this podcast to be over so I can go play with it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's crazy that's like, and I should know, being a Apple writer editor for a decade, that the coolest settings are always in accessibility. But
always
that one
in
just blows my mind.
But
I don't know what that's doing there. What's the accessibility in this? Like people who just don't have motor skills, the proper motor skills, maybe. I guess.
Yeah. I think it's that. Like it's hard for people to double tap or to double tap quickly and stuff. But like, but yeah. So in regular settings, there's settings, camera, and there's a camera control thing up top, and then you can do things like turn off the clean preview where it takes all the interface off when you press the button, which I also don't like, but you can just turn that off. You can change launching the camera to a double click and pick which thing. But that thing where it says camera button should be in that menu, not in accessibilities, and then give you all those options.
Right.
Yeah.
It's in the wrong place.
It kind of falls into like Apple's attitude about certain things. Like they believe that when they set default, that's what everyone's going to want.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they're probably correct.
They're probably right in the most part. But when you want to do more customization, they tend to think that that's because you have certain physical limitations or disabilities or something like that. They don't think that everybody's going to want to change it because their settings are perfect for everyone.
Yeah, that's why I'm so shocked they kind of let people tint their home screen icons. That seems like something they would normally put in accessibility for people who have vision problems and need a high contrast.
And they did.
Blah,
they
blah,
had a monochrome setting for that reason.
Yeah, it was a limited sort of monochrome, and they had high contrast and stuff. But like tinting everything algorithmically is like, I'm shocked they gave us that. And now this camera controls right back to the sort of the old style, like, nobody needs to change how fast the double tap works. Like, wait, but kind of, maybe we all do. Like,
I feel like it needs more customization features to make it truly useful. I will use it because I liked it. You know, it instantly calls up stuff. Like the thing I like, one of the things I don't like is when you're using the video and when you like you were talking about, you hold it down and then when you let it go of it, it'll stop shooting the video.
Yeah.
But then you have to like keep it held down. And if you want to change the zoom, you have to figure out how to change the zoom with another finger while you still have the finger holding down the control.
If you switch to video mode, just a single press is your shutter. It starts the video. It stops the video. You can mess with. So yeah, that's not that bad. I almost wish it would allow me to press and hold. I mean, I know they don't do this because that visual intelligence thing is coming, but like from not even launching the camera, from having my phone locked, whatever, just if I could press and hold and it would launch the camera and record video. Like in one step, just pressing and holding and just be like, quick, record a video of this. What's happening right now? I just want to like press and hold and be recording a video from the lock screen. Just like press video this now. Oh my God, something's happening.
Those things could feel like options that they can offer.
Exactly.
But I don't know if Apple will ever do that. So, well, you know, that's the thing. So
I think it's a big win to have a button for launching the camera and the shutter. I think all of the adjusting stuff, the stuff to adjust is not there. Like you said, it's the defaults feel wrong. It's finicky. It's a small area to control on. Yeah. So turn that off. You can go in and turn that off and make it just your shutter and be happy with your life.
Yeah. What else have you guys experienced with the phones so far that kind of stand out?
I like the color of mine. I got the teal one. I don't use a case. So like I just not like I had the natural titanium last year and it was just like and this year like there's nothing, and Apple just doesn't think pro people want any kind of vibrancy or brightness or color in their lives. It's space gray or white or some variation therein.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to have a little color on the phone again.
This year it's the dull bronze. It's not even like a dark blue.
Right.
It was like that dull bronze.
It's like sandy. Yeah, I don't love it. I'm not missing.
I mean, they named it the right thing.
That.
Desert titanium is accurate.
It is. Which colors did you get, Jason? And actually, Roman too, because you have two as well.
I have the pros, so I have a natural and I have a white.
Okay.
And I think the white is a little more, like the white's a little whiter and the black's a little blacker than last year. It seems just a little more intense, but it's minor, and it's still what you got: white, black, natural titanium, and this desert color.
And you're right.
So the phones I have, they are from Apple PR. They are loaners, and they sent black and white.
All right.
It's just like it's just kind of like. I mean, what is there to say?
On the non-pro models, the black and the white are really black and really white.
Yeah.
There's like a really white and a really black.
That's true.
It's not like this gray. It's not space gray. It's black.
Yeah. They did send me a yellow case for the smaller.
Okay, yeah. The silicone cases.
So, the silicone case is yellow.
I did a little testing on charging and stuff as part of the battery life testing. That was a little bit interesting. There's been some reports out there that the Pro models will go up to 45 watts because some people looked at some USB-C registration info and stuff and figured out, did the math and said it's 45 watts. It might be capable of that eventually, but Apple has it set to definitely still limit at 30, which is kind of lame for a $1,000 plus phone in 2024. Most phones are topping out faster than that. It definitely tops out at 30. I tested it.
I mean, I would assume Apple would tell us if it went to 45. Like, why wouldn't they advertise that?
Yeah, why would they advertise that? Yeah. And the new MagSafe wireless charger with a 30 watt or better power adapter does top out at 25 watts. I did get up just under 50% in half an hour. It's like a few percent. It's like 5 or 6, 7% behind plugging it in, which is what you'd expect, 25 versus 30 watts, right? So it takes like, I know, 80 minutes to get a full charge instead of, like plugging in, it takes like 90 minutes to get a full charge because it slows way down at the end, and it takes like 100 minutes or something to do it with the MagSafe charger. So the MagSafe charger does its thing. It goes faster. It is a big difference between 15 and 25.
And you also got a longer cable.
Yeah, well,
or you can get a longer cable.
You can buy a longer cable.
$10.
Which huge. I mean, don't get the shorter one. Just don't.
Yeah, just spend the extra.
Pretend it doesn't exist.
It's ridiculous that Apple charges that much for a meter.
Yep.
But it's worth it.
It does work. Yeah.
Or buy a cheaper third party with the cable.
None of those do the 25 watt.
That's right. Yet. It's a 20. Not yet.
I think that may come at some point, but right now
it's going to be a while. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be a while.
It's strange to me that Android hasn't really adopted much of this stuff. Like MagSafe is a standard now, and it's been that way for about a year, and it's just utterly ignored by anyone but Apple, basically.
G2 is basically just MagSafe as an open standard. It's MagSafe. It tops out at 15 watts. It's the same ring of magnets, basically. It's a slightly different protocol, but that's it. There's like one G2 Android phone.
Yeah.
And it's like
none of the big ones.
It's not like the Samsung S24. It's like a lesser known name. Like, how is that a thing? There's all these G2 chargers and stuff out there. Like, where are the G2 phones? It's weird.
I know it's surprising unless they're so far ahead in their development that it's like a 2-year cycle, and we'll see them
you don't see. But usually with Android, you see it the opposite way. Usually it's like they're the first ones to get some new Qualcomm modem or whatever. Like they usually have the shortest development time, and then it's finicky and full of bugs because they're not trying to make 70 million of them to sell in one quarter like Apple.
Qi 2 Android phone is the HMD Skyline, which I've never heard of.
Yeah. And I think there's been a couple other announced, but that's it. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know where that stuff is. They're behind on this. It's really great. Like having the magnets.
MagSafe is great. I wish Apple would pay a little more attention to it. It was nice that we got a little upgrade this year because they hadn't done anything since the iPhone 12, basically. But it's a very cool standard. Still has a lot of potential for accessories and things.
Yeah.
And now that it's, like I said, like Jason said, 25 watts, that's like good. You're popping on the charger, 20 minutes later, take it off. You're good. Yeah.
Yeah. That's almost like plug it in the wire. Right.
Right.
So it's great. The weirdest thing to me about these phones, all the iPhone 16s, is Apple promotes them. The first thing on the page, built for Apple Intelligence. That's the thing.
Go to a store. The friggin' cube in New York City was glowing like Siri.
Yeah,
like
the new Siri that's not on.
They are promoting the heck out of it. Yeah,
all the commercials are Apple Intelligence, and I get that because now they don't sell the 15 Pro anymore. That's the big upgrade. If you think about how much of an upgrade this is, it's not a big upgrade on the Pro. It's pretty big on the non-Pro, but it's still for the things people do with their phones every day. These are not
all that.
These are not. But Apple Intelligence, all those features they're promising, those are real benefit. Even though they're quote software, it only runs on these phones. That's a real benefit, and it's not there yet. And I feel conflicted about how to review it. I feel like you can give them credit for the 18.1 features because we can use them and test them. They're on beta 5. It's coming out soon. We know how that's going to work. But then all these other things, we can't just assume it's going to work the way Apple says.
Right.
We can't look at all those things. I can't review it and say it has those features. It doesn't. Right. So the review is going to have to be well, so much of what's going to make this phone great isn't out yet, and we don't know if it's ever even going to be as good as they say.
Yeah.
So it gets 0 points for promises that aren't just promises. Made to run promises is the tagline for these phones.
Yeah,
and it's so weird. So
we talked about it a little bit last week, but yeah, it's a very strange thing that the tagline for the new phones is "Hello, Apple Intelligence."
Yeah.
They sold, 25, 30 million of them in the past couple days? 10 million, whatever it is.
Yeah, millions.
Whatever the number is, it's a lot. And 70% of those people saw a commercial, went to a carrier store, went to an Apple store, saw these things, go home, pick up the phone, and not only is it not there, there's no indication that it's there or not. It just, the phone starts, you do your thing, you restore it. And it's all right, well, how do I do this stuff? And you're going to spend a few minutes looking for it. Yeah.
A little glowing ball at the bottom of the screen. There's no indication that this stuff's coming
They
soon.
could have at least done that. At least changed the interface to give people the illusion that it's there.
And I think 18.1 is probably coming in a week or two.
Probably so.
It's because they're already on beta, 5 or something. They started beta months ago, early.
Yes.
So that they could do this. So they could very quickly rush it out as fast as they could. But even then, that's not most of the Apple Intelligence stuff. That's bits and pieces, and it's not terribly impressive. The writing tools, I don't think a lot of people are going to use that's not that. I think those are better on Mac, but that's not really that important.
I hate that,
to a lot of people.
Before you get off of writing tools, I hate that commercial with the email summary.
Oh.
It's first of all, she makes it very obvious that she didn't read the email. So I'm thinking to myself, what is the point of this? What are you showing me here? That you could, what?
Ignore
not
email.
Read something and then show someone that you didn't read it, but also have some basic information about what they told you?
I do enjoy the email summaries for threads. It'll summarize a whole thread of emails and stuff. But all right, notification summaries, that's great.
Okay.
I've been living with that. It does notification summaries on all your notifications now. I'll have 8 Ring notifications and I'll have a summary. Of all the things. It's great. But that's kind of that, and Siri will glow better and understand. It'll understand when you correct yourself and stuff, but it's not going to be smarter yet. So even like you said, people are going to go home, they're going to get their phones. It's not going to have any of the stuff they saw in commercials. and they're going to go, what the hell? And then they're going to get an update, and Siri's going to look different, and it'll pop up cards saying Apple Intelligence, blah, blah, blah. And it'll be the lamest features of Apple Intelligence. It won't be all the cool image generation. It won't be the super smart Siri it won't have visual intelligence. None of that stuff is coming for months. So yeah, I feel really weird about how to review it. I mean, obviously our policies say you can't review a promise. It may not be
right. For sure. Even if it isn't beta, like you can't in good conscience put that in the review. It's missing.
So I feel like I feel like it's whatever the reviews are for these phones, they may be much, much better in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Just because like now there's all this really, really awesome stuff that only these phones. So and we don't like re-review stuff much, but this is the first case that we've ever made, the thing that we've ever made where it's like, yes, only these new phones are getting really substantial software updates over the coming months, piece by piece. What a weird place to be in for this stuff. And nobody listening to this podcast is uninformed about that, but you've got to tell your family members and friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, like when you see those commercials, it doesn't say, well, maybe it doesn't fine print that you can't read, but there's no indication that it's not actually on the phone yet. None.
Yeah. And
Apple does, it's not even like they could have put a coming this fall thing, like a title screen at the end. They didn't do that.
If anything, those commercials are shot in the future because Bella Ramsey's using the feature that's not available yet.
Right. I want the phone she has.
They have Apple has always had major features come out in iOS over months, but never that are not just never for just for the new phones and the selling point of the new phones.
Yeah.
Right. So. Yeah, it's a really weird place to be in, and I feel like you have to explain to everybody your phone isn't good yet.
You absolutely
the new phone you bought isn't that it's going to get better. Just you watch.
Well, that does it for this episode of the Macworld Podcast, episode 902. Thanks to Jason Cross.
Thank you.
Thanks to Michael Simon.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks to you, the audience. Thank you for tuning in. So as Jason kind of pointed out, we're working on these reviews. So we'll have them up on macworld.com pretty soon, hopefully. If not within the next week, close to that. So check out macworld.com for our reviews. You can subscribe to the Macworld Podcast in the podcast app, on Spotify, on YouTube at the Macworld Podcast channel, or through any other podcast app. If you have any comments or questions, send us an email at podcast@macworld.com or contact us through X, that's @Macworld, or on Threads, that's @Macworld_HQ. Join us in the next episode of the Macworld Podcast as we talk about the latest in the world of Apple. See you next time.
My neighbor has a dog. I don't know what kind it is. So there's a leash. There's like a tree and a leash that it or he. I know it's a she because they were babies last year. That so she goes out every day, and she just runs in a circle for literally 2 hours. Like there's like a dirt circular track, like a perfectly circular track, where this dog just runs and runs and runs,
like 10 feet around the tree,
for hours. And she seems to be, very happy doing it. But
dogs like
crazy.
To run.
Like Gabe and I play baseball in the back, and you just watch this dog just runs in circles and circles and circles. And circles.
I read this thing about how our neighbor's dog's like that with their pool. He'll knock his own toy into the pool and be like, "Oops, got to go get it." Just jump in, and it doesn't matter what the temperature is. And just for hours, he'll throw his own toy in the pool and jump in to get it and come out. And just repeat that for hours and hours. I read this article that was like dogs release a chemical when they run that's a lot like a runner's high that people get when they run. But it's triggered not by like humans get it as almost like a survival thing. Like you have to run a whole lot, so you get a runner's high just to keep your body from feeling all the pain of running a whole lot, right? Like it's like but it will trigger in dogs just from the sensations of running. So that's why they stick their heads out the window of a car. They're like, I'm running so fast, and they get high. Yeah. They get that like runner's high thing. So that's why that dog probably just likes to run in circles. It's like they get a runner's high real easy. So as soon as they start running, they're just like, yeah, I'm running. Just like super high about it.
Yeah, my dog loves to stick his head out the window in the car.
Fortunately, I feel glad that ours doesn't really. Like, even if we put the window down, she's not interested. She loves to be in the car. She wants to get in the back seat, lie down, and go for a car ride. But she doesn't like to stick her head out. And I'm glad, because I always feel nervous about doing it.
It makes me nervous, yeah.
It makes me nervous to look at it as a driver, like alongside, because sometimes the window's wide open. Like they could just jump out if they wanted.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
My dog would jump out.
Or heaven forbid you get in an accident when they're doing that, you know?
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So we have our car, our dog. She has like the little harness like you would walk her with, but like it clips into a seatbelt thing. So she has a little room to move around, but if we got in an accident, she wouldn't go flying. And if we pull that thing out, if we get that down from the little bin it's in, she goes nuts. She's like, "Oh, we're going in the car." She gets crazy. Yeah. It's the greatest day ever.